Danny Garcia back in action against Jose Benavidez. You mentioned it earlier that Danny Garcia looked great in this in terms of his technical prowess. I think they had the perfect opponent in front of them in Benavidez, who wasn't on the same technical level from my perspective as Danny Garcia, but was very game, is very tough.
And that's what I was tweeting all night long, just what you just repeated. I was tweeting out all night that he showed Benavidez, he exposed him. There's Benavidez fans out there that probably think he's better than he is. That's up to you. But for me, he's a strong guy. He had a lot of amateur background. He comes from a fighting family. I get it. He's got it in his veins. But from what I've seen, he's a guy that goes in there. He thought he was going to walk in and throw punches and catch him with a right hand or whatever and outstrength him or whatever, hurt him when he wanted to hurt him. But there's a lot more to the sport. I know Benavidez is not a caveman. I know he's better than that. I'm not trying to paint him that way, but Garcia exposed him for a different level of fighter than Garcia is. He exposed him.
Like I said, matchmakers, excellent job in getting this opponent served up for Danny Garcia because he's only had 2 fights since 2018. In 2018, he got knocked out by Terrence Crawford, and then he had a fight in 2021 that he got a draw against Francisco Torres. Not exactly a household name, but Terrence Crawford said that Jose Benavidez, if he fought the way he fought Terrence against Danny, he'd have a very good chance of being competitive. So I think Jose at times has shown some ability, but at this, to use one of your terms, when he steps up to the next level, he's just not there. And Danny, he was the perfect opponent for Danny to look good at. And Danny's also been off for a hell of a long time. And unfortunately, Danny's struggling with some mental health issues. And man, you could see that bubble over after the fight. Very emotional. He was in tears in the interview. It actually made me like Danny Garcia a lot more just to see how vulnerable he could be. And I think people like to identify with people that have struggled with things that I've struggled with these things myself over the years. And mental health is such a dark, lonely place because you feel so incredibly vulnerable. Patty the baddie touched on it last week about, when you're a man and you're going through emotionally tough times, it's easy to convince yourself that you're weak and you're a sissy and it's never going to get better and you can't confide in anyone. And hearing Danny open up about his struggles just shows tremendous strength of character to be able to be honest and open with people. And like I said, I think a lot of people identify with that vulnerability. It made me feel for Danny a lot. It's a shitty place to be. So congratulations to Danny. Like I said, perfect opponent. How'd you like the fight? What were the technical aspects that you picked up on with regards to Danny?
Well, first of all, just to add to that, we wish him well, Danny, that with his struggle, it's an ongoing struggle with the mental health, that he will continue to be at a good place, get to a good place, and have the support of loving family and friends around him. We're very happy that he did well, and we just want him to be well, not as so much just as a successful professional fighter, but as a person that has to live life. And we hope that he, as I said, he gets to where he needs to be and stays there and has a good life. I thought it was important that he mentioned the mental health issue because there are a lot of people, as you said, out there suffering quietly, where they're afraid to talk about it. They don't know how to talk about it. There's so much that's not known about the mental health part, and they need help. And
can I say one other thing, Teddy?
They should try to get the help if they need it.
The one thing that really made me feel concerned for Danny is that his identity is so closely tied to boxing, and he said that this is where he felt at ease in training for fights. And that makes me nervous, only that he's an older guy, and if your whole identity and your whole personality is wrapped up in being a fighter, he needs to start thinking about that and segueing into the next chapter of life, because you just can't do it forever. And you see it time and time again where people hang on just to fight too long, 2 fights too long, and they're taking unnecessary punishment and suffering the long-term consequences of CTE, head injuries, etc. And I just hope that as part of his recovery or therapy, that he recognizes that his worth isn't just tied to being a fighter. Yes, he's a great fighter, but that's just one chapter of an entire novel that makes up a life. And I hope someone is pointing that out to him. Like, you're not just a fighter, you're a dad and a person. And, I'm sure they are too. I just want to highlight for other people.
No,
I agree. Your value can't be attached to one activity.
Well, that's why I said before that no matter what he does and how great he's doing with boxing, which is beautiful, we just hope that he also is victorious in that other fight. We all have different fights going on. And
I knew you would identify, I knew you'd pick up on this. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because no one understands the mental aspect of this more than you do.
And we just hope that, and I just hope that he's successful in that fight, which is a more important fight. It's a fight for his life and for his happiness and for his family's happiness. And I'm glad he touched on it, because it allows people out there to maybe feel a little bit more secure of a fighter, a macho person like a fighter. You talk about macho. You talk about being the strength of a person, a man. Some people look at a fighter as that. You don't have to be a fighter to be a man. You don't have to be a fighter to be strong. But some people will look at that and say, wow. And if this guy could talk about this, if this guy could be vulnerable, anybody could. And anybody should be able to talk about it. If a guy that makes a living, knocking people out can talk about it. So I think it was important that he talked about it. Ryan Garcia has been through this. He's talked about it a little bit, about mental health issues. I wish all of these guys luck and the best in those fights, not just their fights in the ring, but those personal fights with their mental health issues, to get to the right place and to conquer what they have to conquer and to be happy. And getting back to the fight, Garcia, he was brilliant. He was off 2 years. You never would have known it. He was brilliant. He exposed Benavidez, but he showed what he is. If there's a knock on Garcia where sometimes he could lose a fight, he's always in a fight because he's that good. But he could get outworked. He could get out hustled. He depends on his counter punches too much sometimes. Not tonight. He created his own offense. He didn't just look for it on the back end with the counters. He looked for it on the front end. He created it on the front end with his jab. He got a faster start than he normally does. He knew he had to. He knew he wanted to. And he did. He used his jab beautifully to set up combinations, set up other punches. He countered magnificently to both the head and body, especially the body. He put on a clinic as a terrific, great boxer. Using the ring in spots, being in the pocket in spots, countering, leading, everything, combinations, single shots. He did it all. And you're right, he had the right guy in front of him because this guy was exposed. That's just a guy was going to walk in and throw cold, naked punches. What do I mean by that? Well, no setups to them. Garcia was disguising his punches, setting them up, doing them off misses, doing them off jabs, doing them in different, ways that really constitute what the sweet science is supposed to be all about. Not just being a tough guy, being a smart guy. He did it all night long. I thought he only lost one round, the 9th round. Other than that, then he took control in the 10th again. I thought he won every round. The only thing that, as great as Garcia was, and he was great, was how bad that judge was that had it a draw, made it a majority decision. I mean, that guy should be thrown out of the sport immediately. He had
crazy too, because you would think that Danny Garcia is like, of the two fighters, he's the A side, he's the bigger draw, he's the main event. Like, you would think that they'd be favoring him.
And it pissed me off. I'm not afraid to say it. It pissed me off that the commentator said, "Oh yeah, that was a bad one." But you know what? Let's not belabor the point. They got it right. No, they didn't get it right. He got it wrong. He had it a draw. That's the problem. That's the effing problem. I'm sorry. That's the freaking problem in this business. That it's boxing. You just you let it roll off your back. What are you gonna do? No, it should be stopped. It should be stopped. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding? If you were watching an NFL game, and you saw the score, and you saw one team won by 3 touchdowns, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden one of the referees changes the score and has it an even freaking score at the end of the day. What would you do? Say, what are you going to do? At the end of the day, the other refs got it right. We know who won. No, you get rid of that guy. He wouldn't work no more. It's called unemployment. That doesn't happen in boxing. That doesn't happen. They rob you. They do crazy things. They're working the following week trying to rob somebody else. And commentators shouldn't take it that light. Yeah, you don't want to make that the story. But you should make it the story sometimes. So you get rid of it. You clean up the effing sport.